So basically, you are demonstrating that yes, although the pandemic threw everybody a curveball, but you managed to come up with a solution, or you managed to adapt to the situation that actually came. In this episode, we are going to be looking at some of the new questions companies are asking during interviews, especially as it pertains to how potential employers handled COVID within the work environment or handled the pandemic. And some of these questions are very, very tricky. So we're going to look at some of them and the approach you need to take to answer them. Great. So the first of such questions is basically, one of them is, how do you complete a project with minimal supervision? Or how did you complete a project with with minimal supervision? And the key here is that the understanding is that when the pandemic hit, especially in the thick of it, most companies resorted to remote work. So if you had a boss that was all over your neck every now and then, hammering your head, bring this report, do that, that boss was not physically present anymore. So now you probably work on your own in your own home, and then you submit the report. So you have some supervision, but it's very minimal supervision. So the essence of this kind of interview question is to drill in to find out how you are able to stay organized and manage your time, right? So that is the import of that question. So you don't have a supervisor who is always right in your face. So how were you able to complete all these projects without minimal supervision, right? Okay, and then how do you basically to find out whether you can take direction? Let's say you get your boss tell you, do this once. He says it once, and then you get it done, right? Because when probably you were face to face, your boss will have to come in, especially the micromanagers. They will have to come in and repeat what they said many times. So if your boss was like that, and you were used to that, and all of a sudden there is no physical boss present, how are you able to do that? So basically, I think the essence is you are going to demonstrate that you when the pandemic hit and you had to work from home, you're going to demonstrate to the potential employer that possibly, look, I used to be in an environment whereby my boss was very in your face type of boss. Everything, you come at your desk, hitting at your desk, kind of, get it to me by this, right? And I transitioned to work from home, and all of a sudden I noticed that I noticed that I had let's say, one of the hallmarks of corporate work is you stay long in the workplace, especially as you go up the ladder. Most senior people would not pack their bags and leave the office at 5:00. Most don't. In very toxic work environment, it becomes like competition, which is very unhealthy. That the game is whoever gets up to go home first loses, right? So people end up staying way deep into the night, which is not very helpful. It's not very productive, but it happens, especially I think in industries like law, and then investment banking is one of those areas where they work tremendously long hours. So if you were in that situation and you really were not very good, you were not predisposed at let's say working in the evenings, you were a morning person, maybe you always wake up at 3 a.m., right? And you're able to get the most productive hours of your time are, let's say, between 5 a.m. to say 10 a.m. You get a ton of your work done. That should come to fore during the interview. That, look, I clearly am an early morning person. And when I was working in in a face-to-face, person-to-person kind of environment, because of the work culture and everything, yes, I will do the work, but I will stay longer. But most of the time, that's not very productive use of my time. But now that I was at home, and you're going to also talk in terms of outcomes or results. Don't just throw things out there. So you realize, okay, there was a report that I normally use 2 weeks to prepare. At the end of every month, I spend 2 weeks. I start working on it from the 14th, and I need to complete by the 28th and submit it further to my boss, who will present it on the 30th. So it's like that type of report. And that report takes long to do that. But when I came home, when I started working from home, or when I worked from home, I was able to cut the number of the number of days it took to produce that report from 14 days to 7 days. Why? Because I worked mostly from 3 a.m. when I wake up and I freshen up, I sit down, I get a lot of things done. By the time it's 10 o'clock, I've achieved so much with very little interruption. And I go, maybe I go to the grocery store, take my child, we go out for an hour for grocery shopping, and then come back refreshed, and then I sit through, and that's the time that I get ready for conference calls, Zoom calls, and that kind of thing. So basically, you are demonstrating that, yes, although the pandemic threw everybody a curveball, but you managed to come up with a solution, or you managed to adapt to the situation that actually became an advantage. You get what I mean? It became an advantage to you. And another thing also is that, let's say you had a workflow, an existing workflow. Let's say you have to do a certain type of job. Maybe you have to create a certain report, or create a document and go give it to somebody else in another department to sign it, and maybe approve it or endorse it or supervise it or whatever it is, and then it moves to another chain, another person works on it, so it's like 4 or 5 people begin to work in the chain to get that process or that workflow completed. In COVID time, you can't take your document and somebody goes to sign it. So what did you do? Basically, maybe you quickly introduce electronic signature concept to your company, which is very, very common these days, that you e-sign it, or the person that you finish the work, you upload it to an e-sign platform, it gets to them, they sign it, you see that the moment they sign it, you get notified that it's been signed, and then you forward it to the next person, and then if there's an issue, you quickly organize a Zoom call for all 3 of you to review the document, and then anyone can annotate the document, and then once it's done, it's done. So actually, something that probably would have taken days to do, it could literally take less than 24 hours to happen. And that is how your thinking process must be whenever you are asked this kind of question, that, how do you complete a project with minimal supervision, right? Then the second one will be, maybe can you share an example of how you had to adapt your role during COVID? It's a bit similar to the first question, but in a sense a little bit different. This one is looking for your adaptability and your flexibility, examples of how you had to adapt. So for instance, most professional workers, especially in the office environment, had to learn one thing, especially if you are managing clients, right? So maybe you travel to clients, or clients do travel to your office. And one of the things that happened from the onset of the pandemic, nobody was traveling anymore. Everyone was at home. So all of a sudden, everyone has to become a conference call or Zoom Expert or Webinar Jam, any of these kind of tools that are used to do remote meetings. So you say, oh wow, I didn't know anything about Zoom. I didn't know anything about web conferencing. So quickly over a weekend, I got myself deep into YouTube videos, and by the time the weekend was over, I was a pro at it. So all of a sudden, my clients didn't have to come to their office anymore, and I didn't have to travel there, but it never stopped the continuity of business. I quickly had to adapt. The other thing is that sometimes you're working in teams. You do this, the other person does this, but because all of you are in the same place, it's very easy. If you need to hobble a meeting together in the office, you're able to do that. You have John is working on this piece of the project. You are working on that piece, maybe a design piece, or somebody is working on that. So all of a sudden, that environment is taken away. So you say, look, I got to know that one of the tools that I could learn to put everything together as the project lead was to learn maybe a tool like Trello, or maybe Asana, Zoho CRM, and those kind of project management tools. Trello is one of the most popular ones. So I took time and I did a course, maybe a Udemy course or Coursera course, and I did a full course on how to use Trello maximally, and I became a pro at Trello. Not only was I managing projects for my immediate team or immediate department, I was helping and coaching other people within the organization via Zoom on how to use Trello at the workplace. So that is very, very, very powerful. You demonstrated that when things became tough, you became adaptable, you became flexible. And one of the things that you did was you were to learn things that typically you wouldn't have learned, or typically wouldn't have been in your domain. And that is a powerful answer to give. In case you lost your job during the pandemic, all hope is not lost when this kind of question comes up. If you lost your job, all that you need to demonstrate is, what did you use your time for? And the best thing would have used your time for is maybe if you went on further studies, whether it's an academic pursuit or your own personal development thing that you did. So for all these tools that we're talking about, maybe you decided that, look, because the whole world is moving digitally, you decided to learn digital marketing. So you enrolled on a 6-week course in digital marketing. You need to go a little bit deeper in that. Don't just say digital marketing. Go a little bit granular so that the person interviewing you really would have that confidence in the answer that you are giving. They may not know anything about digital marketing, but the moment you start going granular, that, I learned how to set up, I learned how to do SEO, search engine optimization. I didn't even know that SEO, search engine optimization, comprised 2 parts, the off-page optimization and the on-page optimization. I learned all of that, and it was very enjoyable. So now I can help any company rank very high, rank on page 1 in Google. That's a big plus. I also learned about how to create a WordPress content management using WordPress. Basically, I learned about Facebook ads. I learned about Instagram ads. I learned about LinkedIn, lead sourcing with LinkedIn, all those kind of things. So the moment you're going granular like that, they say, wow. Even though they may not know much about it, but it's like you bamboozle them with a lot of relevant facts that makes what your answer you are producing believable, right? Okay, so if you were unfortunately laid off during that time, this is the time to show that, look, although I was laid off, but I took that time to actually prepare myself for this time that things are beginning to shine. And you demonstrate and show them what the courses that you did were, and how excited you were with doing them, and how prepared you are to enter into the job market again. So another question that comes up these days also has to do with it's quite a tricky question though, but in all honesty, it has to be answered in a very, very, very honest way. And I'll tell you why. This is the question. Actually, I'm jumping ahead of myself already. It says, do you prefer to work in an office or at home? That's a very tricky question. Do you prefer, which one would be your preference, working at home or working in the office? I will say this. Look, there's that kind of question that, if you answer each way, it's like if you answer yes, you are doomed. If you answer no, you are doomed, depending on the preferences of the employer. So the best thing to do is stay true to yourself. Look, there is no point in saying, oh yes, I would like to work in the office environment, knowing the company likes to hire people who want to work in the office environment, and yet you yourself internally know that that's not what is best for you. Maybe you have a new baby, maybe you have commitments at home that maybe you are taking care of an elderly parent or something at home, and you still want to be working. So if you tell them that, I want to work at the office, and they give you the opportunity, and 1 month down the road they realize that you lied to them, that would be horrible. So it's best to stay true to yourself. Organizations love that. They love people who are very honest. You just be honest with them. Look, I would love to work under any circumstance, but currently I think the work from home would really work for me. My situation could change, but I think right now, I think the work from home would really, really do me good, because I just had a new baby. And I think moving up and down with new baby, if I have to choose, if I have a choice, I would rather work from home and be able to take care of the baby whilst also doing my job. And I don't think my baby's taking care of my baby will have any negative impact on my work productivity or my work outcomes. So you position it that way, right? And if it's the other way around, where the company prefers that you do remote and you don't really love remote, not everyone wants to work remote. Sometimes you want to work with people, because sometimes, the chit chat, you work a little bit and then somebody comes to you, or you go to the cafeteria or where the tea or coffee machine is, and people come and maybe you talk a little bit about, how's your daughter, how's your home, how's your new remodeling going, how's your grandma, all those, or how's your soccer team or football team, whatever it is. That gives a temporary break from the work you're doing, and most of the time that kind of recalibrates your brain. It makes even you more productive at the workplace, those kind of chats. Working remotely, you don't have that, and some people need that type of environment whereby once in a while they get disrupted by people. You'll be surprised. This is the truth. Once in a while somebody will come in, or they will go and disrupt somebody, and still get the job done. At the end of the day, it has to be, is the job getting done? As to the mechanics of it, you can leave it to argument. But in my preference is, look, get the job done. That's what it is. So you have to weigh the two and be very sincere. If you are sincere, I believe you will get the job. And so these are the top 3 questions that employers are asking currently as it pertains to how potential employees handled themselves during the pandemic. All right, awesome. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, do so right now and click on the notification button, and anytime I churn out content like this, you will be notified. Awesome. And then also I'll put one of my most recent videos right here. I want you to watch that, and you will not regret it. Thank you so much, and I will catch you again. Bye.